Today I'm gonna read you The Boy Who Dreamed of Infinity, written by Amy Alsnor, illustrated by Daniel Mayeris. The Boy Who Dreamed of Infinity. The Boy Who Dreamed of Infinity. Today, the world is small. With a single click, you can see anywhere or speak to anyone. But 100 years ago, the world was big. It took weeks to send a letter by steamer from here all the way to there. Back then, if you had an idea, even a rare and wonderful idea, on one side of the world, people on the other side might never know. Your ideas might forever stay where they began, right here. In a small village in South India, by the banks of the Kaveri River in Amma's arms, Amma held her new baby. She touched his tiny pink tongue and told him about his grandmother's dream. "Before you were even born," she said, "the goddess Namagiri leaned down and whispered in your grandmother's ear that someday she would write the thoughts of God on your tongue." Amma gazed into her baby's bright eyes. But how could someone so small ever grow up to say something so big? Through the window with no glass, she showed him the stars. "I will call you Ramanujan," she said. For 3 years, he stayed quiet as a mouse. "Chinnaswamy, my little lord," Amma begged, "what are you thinking?" Ramanujan just lined up the copper pots across the floor, and when he did it to get his curd rice and mango, he rolled in the monsoon mud. His grandfather tried to help. He held Ramanujan's finger, and together they traced numbers in rice. "Andru, Irandu, Mundru," his grandfather counted out loud in Tamil. 1, 2, 3. Soon Ramanujan began to talk. "What is small?" he asked. He imagined the world with only one man before anyone was there to hear him speak. "And what is big?" He looked up at the big blue space between clouds. At 5 years old, long hair up in a knot, while dhoti tied around his waist, he started school. Just half a dozen boys on the front porch of his house. But when the teacher took no interest in his odd questions, Ramanujan grew bored. He tried again and again to sneak away. As he grew, he often thought about his grandmother's dream. There was something out there beyond his tiny stucco house, whispering. Was it calling him? "Na, na, na," said the goats in the street. What else is small? Ramanujan wondered. He remembered the legend of the single-legged, the cracked open to reveal the entire universe. He thought about a mango. A mango's like an egg. It's just one thing. But if I chop it in two, then chop the half in two. Keep on chopping, I get more and more bits on and on, endlessly to end. Infinity I could never, ever reach. Yet when I pull them back together, I still have just one mango. He loved this idea. Small and big, each inside the other. If he could crack the number one open and find infinity, what secrets would he discover inside other numbers? It felt like it was setting out on a grand chase. Numbers were everywhere. The squares of light bricking his thatched roof, the gods dancing on the temple tower, the clouds that formed and reformed in the sky. Every day he wrote numbers in the sand, on his slate, on rippers, on slips of paper. His fingers flying, each number new catch. In school, numbers were different, stiff and straight. Obeying the rules, when the children chanted sums, Ramanujan thought, but aren't there more sums inside of those sums? He broke the numbers into smaller and smaller bits until he had only ones. He found all the sums they had missed. Is every number like this a single body with many parts? Ignoring the class, he scratched wildly on his slate, his elbow darting up to erase. "What are you thinking?" said the schoolmaster, "making such a racket on your slate and refusing to listen?" He made Ramanujan put his finger shh over his lips and sit in the corner. Ramanujan hated school. Once the town constable had to chase him back to his studies. So every year his parents tried to school. They finally settled on Kangayan Primary. Amma sang songs in the temple. Appa sold fabric in a shop. His friends played goli gundu, shooting marbles in the street. But Ramanujan was shy and liked to be alone. Every day he rushed home from school to sit on the front pile of his house, long hair coming loose from its knot, slate across his knees. Often it looked like he was staring off into nowhere, but it was not nowhere. Out there numbers leaped and roared. He could see them even when he closed his eyes. "Are you a genius?" a friend called up to him one day. "I don't know," Ramanujan called back, "but if I am, my elbow's making a genius of me." He held up his elbow, smudged from erasing the slate. Then he was at it again, writing and erasing as if perfecting a sketch. What else is big? He needed to know. If I can break a number into so many sums, how many sums to get if I take bigger and bigger numbers? When will it be too big to count? He wrote until his fingers ached. In the summers, when it was too hot to think, he chalked numbers on the cool temple floor. High up in the pillars, bats fluttered. He was like an archaeologist dusting off the hidden bones of each number to find its structure. Do numbers also break apart by multiplying? He wondered. Now he ended up with numbers like 2, 3, and 5, and no smaller pairs inside them. How many numbers like this are there? How do I find them? There was no book with no answer, no one to ask. He just had to write and think. In the evenings, while Ramanujan scribbled away and stucky rice balls in his mouth, Amma sang about the gods. She told of the tiny fish who grew to be as big as an ocean, and the little boy saw a great golden lion man break out of a pillar of stone. Everything in the whole world is about small and big, thought Ramanujan. He watched his spark float up and away from the fire. And at night, while he slept, numbers came whispering in his dreams. He woke up, an idea would be there as if placed on the tip of the tongue. He tried furiously, trying to catch the golden thought before it fled. When Ramanujan turned 10 years old, he entered Kumbakonam Town High School, where schoolmaster finally saw that he was lightning quick. Solved tricky problems in a flash. He made up magic squares to stump his friends. Often Ramanujan was quiet, but when his classmates got him talking, the words gushed out and his eyes glowed, mischievous and sparkling, like no one they had ever known. He took food to the man who ranted down by the Kaveri River. The man stared into the sun and said he could see all the creatures running. But this didn't seem strange at all to Ramanujan. Sometimes even invisible things can be real, he told his friends. Can you spy these stuff? When he was 15 years old, he got his hands on a college math book. It had thousands of questions, but no answers. Ramanujan answered the questions, all of them, and when the questions ran out, he made up more. He started writing down his ideas in a notebook with a green pen. The blank pages thrilled him. All that paper just waiting for his work. Ramanujan tried to write neatly, but then he'd catch the whisper of an idea. Numbers would rush across the pages in circles and packs. Amma watched him, remembering the dream. Are these the thoughts of Namagiri placed on his tongue? She wondered. As Ramanujan grew older, his questions grew bigger. How many sums are inside 200? How many numbers like 2, 3, and 5 are there up to 10 million? It would take an impossibly long time to count that high. He discovered intricate formulas and patterns to answer his questions. No one told him how math is supposed to be done, so he did it his own way. He devised his own symbols. He worked out ideas no one ever thought before. Will an endless list of numbers add up to one or infinity? Will it be like the bits of mango, countless stars in the sky? One beautiful ways to tell different lists apart. But when Ramanujan entered college, he couldn't focus on anything except math, and he flunked out. At 20 years old, he had nothing. No college degree, no job, only a notebook covered in strange green ink. He was back on the pial of his house, writing fervently on a slate. Sometimes his family didn't have enough to eat, so a neighbor fed him butter and rice. Amma put her foot down. She had enough of sitting on porches and writing on slates. She arranged his marriage and demanded that Ramanujan get a job. Carrying his notebooks under his arm like a diploma, he went door to door asking for work. Everyone thought that he was brilliant, maybe even a genius, but they didn't quite know what to do with him. Finally landed a job as a clerk keeping accounts at the port trust in Madras. That's a place in India. Still, he did math every chance he got, sometimes late into the night, scraping on a slate. One night, tired of the noise, a friend dumped a bucket of water on his head and cried, "What are you thinking?" Ramanujan looked up, his long hair dripping, his eyes shining. "I'm small," he said. "God is big. I'm trying to learn the thoughts of God." He often walked on the long Madras beach and looked out at the ocean. "I'm like the first man in the world with no one to hear me speak," he thought. He watched the steamers pass in the distance. Were these steam thoughts really meant for him alone? Secrets to be caught and kept forever? Wasn't there anyone anywhere out there he could tell? Local mathematicians and British overseers at the Port Trust became convinced that Ramanujan was extraordinary. But nobody they knew was working on similar mathematical ideas. Was anybody in the world? They urged him to write a letter. "I beg to introduce him myself," he began, and wrote out his strange symbols and ideas. Sent the letter by steamer to Cambridge University, one of the great mathematical centers in England. Weeks went by, nothing. He tried again and again. Ramanujan would try one more time. He wrote to G.H. Hardy, one of the top mathematicians at Cambridge. He had recently discovered Hardy's pamphlet on infinity. Maybe Hardy would understand. Ramanujan waited and waited. Finally, a letter came back, and Ramanujan tore it open. Hardy was astonished. How did Ramanujan come up with such outlandish, magnificent ideas? And what would he come to England? Ramanujan's whole life had been building to this moment. He desperately wanted to share his book, but he could really leave his home. He went to the temple to pray. After some time, a whisper seemed to come in a dream. Speak the thoughts on your tongue. So Ramanujan said goodbye to Amma and Appa and his young wife. He cut his long hair, and on a bright March morning in 1914, packed up his notebooks, took one small step on a steamer, and set out from here all the way to there. As he rocked on the steamer and gazed up the great night sky, so full of stars that it looked like a glittering infinity, could have guessed that someday scientists would use his ideas to help explore that sky, that his work would change the course of mathematics forever. 100 years later, people would still search his notebooks in wonderment, trying to discover what he was thinking. Thank you for watching. It's me, Arnav. Bye-bye.